busy day at school. As I was just saying a second ago, feel free to ask questions on the chat as we go along. The chat icon is on the bottom right if you're not familiar with using Google Meet. I pretty much lived off Google Meet during the lockdown because we use mostly Google tools at my school. So I'm going to give just a very quick presentation, possibly bits about new stuff that's going on the site and exciting news. And then the rest of the time will basically be demo, and hopefully there'll be certain features that you haven't seen before. So what is Dr. Frost Maths? For those who are completely uninitiated, it's a collection of a variety of things. Initially, it was basically teaching resources, so slides in particular, and worksheets, and then more recently videos for mostly Key Stage 3 to 5, but there is a bit of Key Stage 2 content as well. And then about 5 years ago, I got some funding to do sort of an online platform around that. So, for example, there's tools for building your worksheets, which you can export to Word or set online, a kind of platform where you can set monitor work to students. And then also the kind of new thing, which I've added to my slide since last year, is the capacity for schools, publishers, including exam boards, and trusts to design a curriculum via the course assistant. I'll be showing you that. I'm very, very excited about that, about the potential and power of that. In fact, I had to update the slide since the first of these events a few weeks ago because I redid the homepage just over the weekend. So that's a new one. The site is constantly updating as I do each of these events. So just to give you an overview of the site structure, what's most of the stuff on the site. You've got the downloadable resources, so those are the kind of slides that I've created. You might not know about the computer science platform, and that's going to separate off onto a separate site, drfrostmathscs.com or .org. And there's actually, well, the slides for the entire OCR syllabus, but also some kind of testing rigs for students to kind of test code and such. And I'll be investing a lot more money into making that a kind of full experience. You've also got some utilities like the virtual whiteboard, which we will get to quickly demo. And the ability of that to connect with your class and sort of send them questions and then see their annotations all in real time. It's pretty awesome. And then you've got the variety of sources of questions and what you can do with those questions. So there's two main sources of questions. And I think that the key thing to get your head around on DFM is that there's two main sources of questions. Traditionally on my site, there was just a kind of fixed question database. So mostly exam questions, and I have licenses with most of the main exam boards in the UK. And as part of my expansion plans, I want to have licenses with a lot of overseas exam boards. And each of these topics have kind of longer videos, kind of like the 10 to 15 minute mark. And then the sort of newer source of questions, these key skill generators. So I think a criticism of the kind of earlier form of the site is that actually sometimes students aren't confident enough with a topic to kind of like deal with the breadth of kind of exam questions that you get. And actually they just want repetitive practice on a very specific, a granular type of question. And that's precisely what the Key Skills platform's about. There's about 800 different random question generators, and you can, it basically randomly, procedurally generates questions, a very specific question type, and then there's nice accompanying videos for each. And I limit that to 4 minutes per video. So each video associated with each key skill is only 2 to 4 minutes, and there's one video per skill. So you can use a combination of both of these. And each of them has its advantages. So the key skills is often the best thing for students to start with till they're confident with a particular type of question, with full support from this worked example video, and also dynamically generated feedback explaining how to do the question if they got it wrong. And then when they're a bit more confident with that, you've kind of got the exam questions here. So I've kind of rebranded that. Rather than fixed questions, it's now, these are known as exam skills and these are known as key skills. You've also got like times table stuff, and to be honest, it's no times table rock stars yet. I haven't spent much time developing these tools, but I do want to invest quite a bit of money into making the offering on sort of general numeracy on my site better. You've got data analytics, so how you analyze progress data for students. And then what do we do with these two different types of questions? Well, there's three main options. You can set these questions for students online as a homework or as a kind of formal assessment. I'll explain the difference between the two. Students can also initiate these practices independently. And then you can output it as a kind of worksheet to Word, and it automatically generates the mark scheme. I'll definitely be showing you this, so don't worry. And then the third thing is to play it as a live game. I have to be careful for legal reasons, but if you imagine something, say, like Kahoot, and there's plenty of products out there that have the idea of questions appearing like on a screen, and then students do it on their sort of tablet or mobile device. So I've got something similar, except whereas Kahoot, it's mostly multiple choice, because it uses the exam questions and the key skills. Most of them are not multiple choice, so they actually have to input algebraic answers, draw stuff, numeric answers, etc. So we'll get to do a demo of that. And then the new thing is like the kind of courses system, which brings together all the stuff from the site, the resources, and the sort of different sources of questions. And you can design a curriculum that uses that stuff, as well as kind of like your own custom external links, your own custom resources, etc. Just a tiny bit about me. I'm really a kind of computer science by trade. I worked in the bank, for example, doing technology stuff. And my PhD and degree were both in computer science. Computational linguistics, by the way, is how we combine statistics with linguistics. So pretty fascinating area. I work with some robots. In fact, I've still got an active, I think they forgot to delete it, but one of my email addresses is jaff@robots.ox.act.uck, which is the coolest email address ever. And it still forwards to my personal email address. So it still actually works if you want to try it. Yeah, I'm one of these kind of disillusioned city workers. I only spent like 10 months there. It was pretty glamorous. I had an apartment that overlooked the Statue of Liberty, and absolutely hated it. Left before I could keep my golden hello bonus, so I had to pay it back. And do not regret it one bit, leaving and doing my PhD. I failed the 11 plus. I come from humble beginnings. I went to a school where I think the year before my year's GCSE results, it was 30% 5A starter C, which even at the time was lower than the national average. And their Ofsted report at the time saying pupils from a lower than social average background. And I think that's what motivated me to make sure that everything on the site is free. And in fact, as of 2 days ago, I've now become a charity, which is very exciting. And also well, I can't give too many details, but there's some exciting funding developments potentially going on at the moment. And if nothing goes wrong, then I'll have plenty of funds to be able to invest in employing staff and such. So all very exciting there. And it's all about really the idea that I kind of feel like that education is sort of right for everyone, and that good education should be accessible to all, regardless of their financial circumstances, because I didn't come from a family with any money, and some of my teaching wasn't great, and I was just lucky that I was very self-motivated. But many students around the world don't have that situation, that luxury. So I want to make sure it's available to everyone. And I've been teaching for 9 years. Right. Oh yeah, and I should definitely give credit to Mr. Gaetan Dupont-Benon, who's kind of like a two-man team, the two of us. And he actually mostly now works on the key skills system. So he's actually coding most of the logic on my engine that generates all those key skill questions that we'll be seeing. So he's absolutely brilliant, and he'll be certainly part of DFM's future as it moves forward. I'm not going to waste too much time on this, but just to show you how the site activity has increased over time. Page views are the number of times a page has been loaded. So this is the total page loads on my site across the years. And you can see this kind of exponential increase. I think I actually use this as a kind of A-level question. You know, where you have to sort of log the data and then find the line of best fit and then work out the parameters of that. I think I used that once where they had to use this data to do that. You can see that explosion in 2020, where that's 192 million page views. And then 2021, it's already exceeded that, despite the fact we're only coming to the end of June. In terms of resource downloads, so these are kind of my PowerPoints and worksheets, basically. You can see how it's increased cumulatively over time. So June 21 recently surpassed 10 million downloads. That's a lot of lesson resources downloaded and being used in UK and overseas classrooms. In terms of questions answered online, that again, the cumulative figures increased massively. And June 21, over 207 million questions answered. So you can see it's getting much, much more popular. And yeah, I was mentioning earlier, or maybe I didn't mention earlier, that the slight criticism of the sort of earlier version of DFM is that there perhaps wasn't enough stuff for lower ability learners. And and that's slightly a function of the fact that I admittedly teach at a selective school. So I've been making a massive load of effort to make sure there's plenty available for everyone. So the key skills system is a big part of that. And some of these key skills are stuff like number bonds. It goes from everything from number bonds to stuff at A-level. So key stage 2 and 3, you've kind of got the key skills so they can repetitively practice these sort of easier topics. And then you've also got the fixed question database, the exam skills, and you've got key stage 2 and 3 sets. You've also, for the high ability students, got primary maths challenge, junior maths challenge, so all those papers on there. I think JMC goes back to 1997 on my site. And then key stage 4, again, you've got key skills, and then you've got like foundation higher tier papers, and then intermediate maths challenge questions, stuff ability. And A-level, there's not so many key skills at the moment, but there will be plenty more going into the future. And upper ability, you've got like the MAT, which is a maths aptitude test that, for example, Oxford Imperial use, and senior maths challenge questions as well. So there's kind of something for everyone, really. Yeah, the figure since 2018 is that in terms of people who've logged into a registered account, it's over almost 9,000 different schools, which is pretty incredible. And I had to do some statistics the other day, and within the last month, it's at least 4,000 unique different schools that users are using it. So that's quite a lot of different schools to varying levels, obviously. So some schools, it's like their main piece of ed tech that they use in the department, and other schools, it might be just a few students that use it. So it does vary. And usage by country is particularly interesting to the people this morning because I did my sort of Asia event of these. And yeah, England, you can see, is by far the most popular at the moment. But United Arab Emirates is second by quite some margin, over third, which is Malaysia. So those are the 3 most popular countries. I was supposed to actually be touring a lot of Malaysia last year, and then obviously all the flights were cancelled, which is a bit sad. But part of my sort of charity expansion is sort of catering for a lot more countries, because obviously it's a bit UK centric at the moment, but that will be changing. Phase 4 is like, these are kind of future development plans for the site, amusingly sort of aligned with the Marvel phases and phases in terms of timing. But yeah, removable banner advertising, and that should be very soon, even within perhaps the next month. As soon as my funding comes through, then all adverts on the site will be completely removed. It's pretty minimal anyway, but I hate ads as much as you do. And with kind of donations, I'll no longer be reliant on any advertising revenue to support the running costs. So that's very exciting, and you'll be as glad as I am, I think. The new course system, which is actually sort of finished ahead of schedule. So most of that's in place now. There's a few little bits and pieces that need finishing, but you can design your course, and I'll show you how to do that. And then more functions available without login required. That's something, again, I've been doing quite a lot of recently. So people come to the site, they don't have to log in. It actually creates a temporary login when they try to do some questions, which is quite cool. And I've almost finished that kind of thing. Continued production of key skills. We want to have thousands of these. We're up to like 800, which is pretty impressive. 800 different random question generators. And I've got to do a lot of work to the associated word example videos. So my work is cut out for me over the summer holiday, to say the least. And continued internationalization of features. So, for example, part of the reason for the courses system is that it would allow foreign exam boards to have to sort of tailor the offering of the site to their particular syllabus, but also I'll make it easier to sort of filter between different exam boards for different countries, because once you get to like 30 exam boards, I don't want a massive list of these, so it'll be done by country and so on. There's already a lot of kind of internationalized stuff, like in terms of time zones for different schools and such, which it works with. A big new thing is parental user accounts. So parents will be able to attach themselves to a particular student account, or obviously kind of being careful about safeguarding and such. We'll be adding a WJEC example. Actually, there are some questions. It's just we kind of started and then just didn't have time. But yes, there will be more WJEC questions. A new restructured homepage, we've kind of already done that literally this weekend, and general reorganization of the site's functionality also did that. The entire top menu system was completely redone a couple of weeks ago, which you may have noticed if you've visited the site recently. So this is just a screenshot of the courses, which I'm about to show you. So this is like, for example, an Edexcel course, and it's nicely broken down to these modules. And then you go into one of these units, and then it nicely brings together everything from the site. So this is a view for teacher, I think. But for the K numbers are kind of key skills. So the things I was mentioning earlier, and you can sort of see example, you can sort of practice it. So students would see that. You can generate a worksheet from that. And then, and then with exam practice, the exam skills, you can browse the kind of entire database of questions for that to find questions. Students would see this, they see that, then they could do the topic test. I'll go into more detail, the different sort of like assessments that students can do. But topic test is basically almost like an end of skill test where consists of 8 usually past paper exam questions, and they have to get at least 6 right to get the topic medal for that. And most of them have 2, so an easier one and a harder one. And that's what the star's there for. And then lastly, well, there's a few last things before I get into the demo. Expansion plans as a charity. Firstly, growth and syllabus coverage. So I want to, for example, employ a primary specialist to kind of produce slides and videos. International growth, so I'm going to be in mostly contractual work, have a sort of person who's in charge of each country. So I would have an England person, an Australia person, a South Africa person, etc. And they would liaise with exam boards in that country, get a license to use the questions on my site, and then put those past paper questions into the exam skill database, and also administer like the courses on the course system for that particular exam board or those exam boards in that country as well. So those are what those people do. And then subject coverage. So you might be surprised to hear that I'm eventually expanding out to other subjects. So I already have things like Dr. Frost, physics.com and .org, chemistry, biology, computer science. Those will be the initial things. But eventually, actually, kind of vocational skills like accounting, that kind of stuff as well. So the potential is limitless. But this is a bit longer term. I'll be concentrating on maths and computer science first. And expanding the user base. So the user base has grown massively over the last few years, and as it grows, it puts more strain on the site, and you have to kind of reconsider like servers and optimizing code and stuff. But also just in terms of the types of people I'm catering for. So I'm not just about catering for students in mainstream schools, but we also want to cater for students in pupil referral units, in prisons even. And in fact, prisons and pupil referral units is mentioned in our charitable vision statement, our official one. And so it's kind of like making sure that education is accessible to all, regardless of circumstances. Very last thing, I think, resources of notes. This is all within the resources menu, but just kind of like static downloadable resources that you might not know about. The full coverage sheets, they're pretty awesome. I have them for GCSE, the Further Maths GCSE, and also A-Level. And basically, I've scoured the last sort of like 15 years of papers and tried to find one question of each type for each topic. So this is like the laws of indices one, and like this is sort of those questions you find where if you had like 25 root 5, you can write that as a power of 5, that kind of stuff. And obviously easier questions as well. This is, it's not an emulator, but it's a kind of interactive PowerPoint where you get to click on the buttons of the calculator and explains all the modes and buttons and such, which is quite cool. So there's one for the A-level class whiz, as you see here. There's also one for the GCSE class whiz, and also the older ones as well. This is pretty old hat now, but I made slides for all of the 2017 syllabus. They seem to be the kind of like de facto default for Edexcel, which is pretty cool. In fact, they even sent Edexcel even sent their publishers to my school to sort of chat with me about sort of officiating some kind of relationship. But I'm really pleased about how many people are using those A-level slides. The Just for Your Interest posters, I bet very few of you know about these, but you can print these out just for your classroom, and they're kind of various questions I've pondered over the years, either as a student or as a teacher. So you might have seen exam questions where they ask you to put the equation of the straight line in the form y equals mx plus c, or ax plus by plus c equals 0. But why are there those two different forms? And that sort of explores that, and all sorts of like interesting questions about that, where you've sort of seen them, but maybe not pondered why we do these things. There's increasingly increasing number of resources for foundation tier GCSE. So these are resources that I never use myself because we don't do foundation tier at my school. But this is, for example, area and perimeter by county. Also, for the upper end, you've got the UKMT database. They actually link to my site from theirs. And what's nice is that all the UKMT questions, like the Junior Maths Challenge, Intermediate Maths Challenge, Olympiads, etc., they're categorized by the main school curriculum. So you could, for example, if you're teaching a lesson on, say, Pythagoras or something, you can find all the UKMT questions to do with Pythagoras theorem, which is quite nice. And then the Riemann Zeta Club is an enrichment club for Year 12 that I run at my school. And that's sort of going through the theory relevant to the Senior Maths Challenge, the British Maths Olympiad, and sort of preparation for uni. So you might want to consider using these materials with your brighter sixth formers or even your 11s. And I'm just going to skip that. But this is just to sort of make a point that even at a sort of selective school like mine, there's kind of potential for improvement. And now our students have been doing a lot more practice at sort of maths challenge style questions, particularly on my site. And we've tripled the number of gold medals, gold certificates in the Junior Maths Challenge in 7 years. Right, okay, demo time. So, and as I say, if there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me. So, right, let's track this in. Now, the reason the names are all scrambled is because I've put something called anonymized mode on. And in case you want to do that yourself at some point, because you're demoing someone else, but you don't want to reveal student names, you just go to this tab here, your name, go to more, and then most of these options won't appear for you because you're not an admin. But if you turn on anonymize, and then it will scramble the names. So that's quite cool for demo purposes. So when you log in, this is what you'll see as a teacher. You've got various different boxes, which basically represent a different part of the site's functionality. And then you've also got this kind of Facebook style notifications feed on the right. And most of these are clickable. So this person's been practicing some stuff in one of my classes. So if I click that, it'll then, so much faster than this morning. Yeah, we had some server issues and we've now resolved them. And so the site's a lot faster, thank goodness. So I can see all the questions this person's done. They got the first one wrong on algebraic fractions. Oh, that's a Scottish question, SQA, Scottish Qualifications Authority. And this is like an activity feed. I'll show you the progress interface later, but let's just quickly go back to this. Then what else have we got? We've got the courses system, which I mentioned. You can. This is a quick link to set some work. The virtual whiteboard. What's the latest homework you set, and you can review that quickly. The DFM live game, which we'll do later. The key skill system. If you want to sort of browse those skills separately. An activity log of students' activity. Browse past papers. You can set it, etc. Different settings, etc. You get the idea. And you can explore these menus as well. So you've got the courses menu here. So that should say your school name if you're logged in, exam boards and publishers, and then you've got the course editor as well. And that's the first thing I'll show you. And then resources, you can browse entire database of all my resources. So you just kind of go, say, algebra inequalities, and you can see all the downloadable resources here, a link to the key skills that I mentioned, and also the kind of exam skills here on the right. With all the different individual things, you've got a revision worksheet. You can browse the database of questions. Let's do that, in fact. Solve quadratic inequalities. If I click that, it'll then take you to this browse facility. If I filter, say, a particular exam board, there's actually, they don't have that many because it's a relatively new thing for GCSE. But then you can quickly browse all the questions for that. What else have we got here? Yeah, that's direct link to the browse facility, past papers worksheets. We'll explore all of these later. And this menu here, because I've reorganized this all recently, that's everything specific to you as a teacher and specific to your students. So you can set work to your students here. You can view the homeworks that you've set. You can see your worksheets that you've created. Templates, I'll explain that in more detail later. This is quite a cool facility. Everyone always asks, well, what does it look like as a student? But what you can do is you can select a class from this drop down. And then every time you set a task to anyone in a particular class, it also gets set to the demo account for that class. The demo account is created automatically when you create a class. So you can then log in as them and you can actually do the task that you've set to your class, which is quite cool. So that facility is there if you want to use it. That's to kind of manage teachers and classes, change account details like password, etc. So that's pretty much most of it. So let's go to the courses system first. If I go to courses and let's just go to my school, it will say hopefully your school name there if you're logged in. So this is all the courses that we've set up. And if I go to say year 7, you can see the classes actually I've assigned this to. And then we've got the different modules we've set up. By the way, these progress bars, this is mainly for the purpose of students, but as they progress through the course, the progress bar for like the unit or the module or the whole course then starts to go up. So I've actually tried a few of these myself, which is why I've got some progress on the course. So if I go to say the first one, like negative numbers, you can see I've just copied the stuff from our scheme of work text. I've put the resource there so that they can download the slides if they want. And then these are different key skills involved. Remember, key skills allow students to repetitively practice questions. They're randomly generated, so they can have infinitely many. And yeah, I'll do. Why don't I do that actually? So if I did division with a mixture of positive and negative numbers, I haven't practiced this one yet. If you want to see example question, the student has this option as well. Click show example, and then it's got an example question. I can put in the answer and then submit it, and then with some explanation text as well. Obviously, there's not much explanation here because there's not much to explain. You can also generate a worksheet. Let's just practice it first. So I'm going to just practice this one skill. If a student wants to practice a mixture of key skills or of these things within this particular unit, they can click this link here, practice a mixture, and they can just select what skills they want. Also, that means if they're trying to like bump up all their progress bar, it's more efficient for them to do it all at once, all the skills, but they can just do it one by one. So let's practice that. Is there a way to change how many questions a student has to get right to fill the progress bar? No, at the moment. Basically, at present, they have to get 4 out of the last 5 right in order to get it to 100%. So I'm thinking of like reviewing how I might do that, but that's the current sort of position. So let's go practice it. So a student will be able to do this, and then this is a very simple skill, but let's pin 6. Well, let's get it wrong first. You see that actually they get a warning. This is Sir Winkington of Wingston. So let's do 6, and there we go. Oh, I've got a key skill point. Awesome. I'm actually reviewing how like the pop-up's quite annoying, so I'm going to be reviewing the layout of this particular page. Also making it clearer how, if there's some kind of like accuracy measure in order to complete the task, it'll be clearer about the specification as they're doing the particular task, like what they need to do to complete the task. Oh, we've got a late joiner. So they can go to the next question. They can also, if they're stuck, they can watch the worked example video and sign. Well, we've got a mixture of positive and negative. It seems it's remembered where I was, so that's intentional. So whenever a student watches the video, it tracks where they are in the video, and actually as a teacher, you can see where they are in the video as well via suitable interface. There's also this whiteboard. So if I click this, you can see there's a whiteboard here, so they can sort of do some working here. And in fact, if you set a task to students, you can actually require working, so that working is recorded, which is quite cool. Right, anyway, let me go back. Yeah, let me show you how to quickly generate a worksheet. Let's go to another skill. So, I don't know, algebraic expressions or something. So if there's lots of skills here. And by the way, for the exam skills, remember those exam questions, you have a quick link to browse all the questions for that particular exam skill. And again, you've got the videos here or generating a worksheet. And then the students have these topic tests, which they can access. If I go to generate a worksheet, if you go to the bottom, teacher tools for this unit. So you could just generate a worksheet on that one particular skill. And in fact, I think if I click it, generate worksheet, yeah, it selects that skill, but you can select more. So you can select lots of them. So let's do that. And then if I then do continue, it asks me how many questions do I want per skill. So if I have one of each, I'm going to have 5 questions. So if I just do that, generate. And there we go. It's generated a random worksheet, which is pretty cool. So just to explain what's on the left and what's on the right, The left is known as a template. So what a template is a specification of how you want your random worksheet to be generated. So you can either have a key skill, remember these are randomly generated questions, or exam questions. If I click that, you can set the topics you want. You can set more than one, so it'll select from one of them. You can filter the exam board. I'm going to make that a bit more, because you can see there's only a few exam boards, so I'm going to change that to some kind of exam board selector, which I'll be developing. Difficulty, range, etc. But let's go back to key skill. If you don't like the questions, you can click generate. Now you can, if you want to keep a question, you click preserve choice, and then it basically won't overwrite that question. I'm changing that soon. So instead of saying which questions you want to preserve, you can actually you'll be able to click a button which just replaces that one particular question. I think that'll be a better way of doing it. So that will be coming soon. If I save this, I can then do stuff with it. So let's save example algebra worksheet. You can see it's saving it in my home directory. You'll automatically have home directory when you register. Don't worry about the view permissions and such. Let's just save that. So it's saved. And then you can see the tree on the left. So I can do a bunch of stuff now. I could either set it to students. If I click that, set to students to the worksheet, you've got all these options here. So I can set it for particular classes. So you can have more than one class. So if I don't know, have all of these guys, and then also all of these guys, and then you can see I've got these multiple classes. But let's ignore that. You've got your due day and due time. You've got, do you want to set it now or for the future? And then if you set it for the future, then they'll only see the task at that particular time. And the emails, the automated emails only go out at that particular time. The difference between homework/classwork and an assessment is that with a homework/classwork, they get feedback after each question. So they know whether they got each question right or wrong as soon as they submit their answer. Whereas with assessment, that's a kind of more formal affair that you can use for formal tests. And all they'll see when they submit their answers, your answers being recorded, and they won't know at the end how they scored. In fact, they won't know how they scored until the due date passes. And in fact, if you set the no due date, then they will never be able to see the answers. I think if I click this, you get a warning. Yeah, please note that if you set an assessment with no due date, students will never be able to see their results or review their answers. So just be careful with what settings you do. But I could just do it like that. Other settings, warn when wrong. So you remember the Sir Winston warning earlier. Those are random kind of comic messages. But that's basically a warning. They get one warning per question if they get it wrong. And students do quite like that 30. So it defaults to yes, I think. And then prevent reattempts. That's more if they get to the end of the homework, are they allowed to have a second attempt? And if it's if they're fixed questions, and this one does have fixed questions, you can see I generated a set of questions and all students will get those same questions. If you prevent reattempts, they only get one shot at it. But if you don't prevent reattempts, then they can redo it, but they only have to redo the questions they got wrong. Require working, I described that earlier. They use a little whiteboard and then they have to draw something on there. Particularly useful for formal assessments if you want to kind of know how to give like partial marks or whatever. The accuracy measure, that's grayed out, and that's because these are not exam questions. But if all the questions are past paper exam questions, now we know that exam questions have a certain number of marks attached. So it might be like a 4-mark question. So if they get it, if you set this setting to use exam marking, then they'll get 4 marks if they get that 4-marker right, and 0 if they get it wrong. And by the way, no, you can't change the number of marks associated with exam questions. That's just set by the exam board. And you might think, well, how will they get 3 out of 4? Because the system only gives them either 4 out of 4 or 0 out of 4. And that's where the sort of working comes into place. If they've shown working, you can then, it might be either working via the platform, or they might have provided working because they, I don't know, took a photo of their working and uploaded it to Google Classroom or something. That's what we've done in the past. Then there is a facility for you to overwrite specific marks, so you can give them partial marks, which is quite cool. So that's that. You can set a time limit as well, obviously, there if you want to. So that's how you create a worksheet. And I will show you how you can view that progress data later. What else is there to show you? So, oh yeah, copying a course. I think I've shown you how to browse these courses. So if I go back to this, so the kind of different types of course available are on the left, if I go to the top level, you can see DFM courses. Those are kind of like if students want to just learn stuff sequentially without anything kind of exam board specific, it might be an adult learner, for example, then I've sort of made these kind of in-house courses that they can work through. So like understanding numbers, so forming, ordering numbers, a bit of explanation text about digits and stuff, etc. So they can work through. That goes all the way up to key stage 2 to 5. Sorry, key stage 2 to 4 at the moment, but it will extend further eventually. And then you've got, this should say your school name, so you can see all the courses for your particular school. For schools as well. Now, because I'm an admin, I can see all these grayed out ones as well for anyone who's created a course. But the list for you will be somewhat smaller based on which ones are public to everyone. So you can either make your course private to your school or public to all schools. But Tiffin's one is public, so you can view our scheme of work if you wish. And then you've also got publishers and exam boards. So you can see at the moment AQA, Edexcel, and Waitrose Maths is there. And what a lot of people do is they actually make a copy of a particular course, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, so that they can then adapt it for their own use. Because if you're a Waitrose Maths user, you might want to assign that to your students, but you might have made certain modifications. That's fine. You can make a copy of it. And then trust. So that's not populated at the moment, but I'll be working with sort of large multi-academy trusts and smaller ones as well. And the idea is that if you've got schools which are linked in a particular trust, and the site does have the capacity to do that, then a trust administrator can make a course for the trust, and that will be accessible to all schools in the trust. So if you are in a trust, there'll be an extra tab which says your trust name here, and then you can access anyone who's in a school within that trust, either teacher or student, will be able to see all those shared courses within the trust. So that's quite cool. So course editor, you can either access it using the link at the bottom, course editor, or just going courses and then course editor. So it defaults, I think, to your school directory. Notice, by the way, if you hover your mouse over, can you see you can now, because I'm in course editor mode, you can just click it and then you can upload a new banner. So believe it or not, that's my classroom. So this is the maths department at the top, the canteen at the bottom of my school. And my classroom is that one there. And I do miss it because obviously because of COVID, we've been all over the place and I don't really have a classroom at the moment. So I'll be very glad to get that back in September. And you can also see these extra things. If I hover my mouse over, you can see like it's hovering, it's kind of highlighting it because I can change the name if I wish, just by clicking it. This will change the status, so I can say, well, it's at the moment active to everyone, so anyone can see it globally. And then if I go into the course, there's more options than before. So you can add an extra module. And in fact, if I go up a level, you can see at the bottom that new course, so you can create a new course there, and it's very easy. In fact, let's do it. Let's just create a new course. So my test course. Don't worry about the target age group. That's not actually used yet, but it is stored. So I'll be thinking about how to use that later. So my test course, and then hopefully it's there now. Yep, it is. You can see it's in development, so no one can see it other than teachers in your school. If I go to it, then I can add a module. So you can, some schools do it by terms. We might have like autumn 1, autumn 2, etc. If this is like the year 7 course. Or you might have it like unit 1, unit 2. It's up to you, depending on how your school organizes things. But I'm just going to do autumn 1. And then you can see it's blank at the moment. And then if I add unit, what do you want to start with? I don't know. Let's just do negative numbers then. Something simple. And then you can see I've now got a unit. You can see it on the left. And then we got like all these plus buttons. It looks exactly like the same as it did before. It's just that everything's clickable now. So for key skills, I just click the plus, and then it's super easy. So I said negative numbers, and I said number, negative numbers. And by the way, if you type in negative numbers into this little filter box at the top, then it filters to all the negative number skills, which is quite cool. So I can then select a bunch of these. And there we go, it's there. It's even like imported my progress on these. And then you can see put introductory information here. Just click it, then you can just update it there, and then super easy. Exam practice, same kind of thing. Resources, so if few things to note here. If you click that, there's different types of resources you can have. So you could actually have a link to another website if you want. Some people have been using this to link to Google Drive files, but I will be having Google Drive integration eventually, so don't worry about that. But let's just say, for example, my standard form course, the standard form unit, there's this great website called scaleofuniverse.com where you can sort of like zoom into microscopic level and zoom out to the whole universe, and you can sort of see like the different measurements, like this unit is 10 to the minus 5 meters or whatever, or 10 to the 10 meters if it's like something really big, and it's really cool. But if I actually, let's just try that one, scaleofuniverse.com. Is that one right? Yes, it does. And it's even imported the text for that site. Sometimes you even get a little picture. If it's managed to scrape a picture like that represents that site, it puts it there. If you don't like the text, you can just update it. So if you hover your mouse over pen icon, you can edit the text associated with that link if you wish. But it does try and import it from the site. Also, if I go to plus again, I can add a downloadable resource. So if you say want my negative numbers slides that I've made, add DFM resource, key stage 2, number, negative numbers, and there we go. There's my negative numbers. Most of them have a lot more resources than that. I think negative numbers have only got like one resource basically. And there we go. I'll put it there. You can. Everything's draggable as well, so you can reorder these. You could even, believe it or not, reorder the items of the page. So in our schemes of work at my school, we like the thing they most probably want to get to is the slides. So we can just drag the slides to the top, and then that will be the first thing on the page. So it will remember that order now. So that's pretty cool. The unit test, by the way, I didn't mention that before, but it takes all the key skills to do associated with this unit, and then they have to get, I can't remember the exact accuracy requirement, but and by the way, the progress bar for a particular unit, they have to get, I think it's 35% based on key skills, 35% based on the exam skills, and then 30% based on the unit test, depending on which one's actually available. If you have no key skills, then it'll weight it to the other ones. So that's that. That's most of the stuff to do with the course builder. Oh yeah, to copy a course, by the way, if you've got an existing course and you want to copy it, so let's say I want to go to White Rose Maths, and I want to look at their Year 8 course, and I've gone to the course. At the bottom, can you see create a copy of that course, and then you can make your own copy. So that's really cool. But does assigning a class to a course restrict what they can see practice? No, it doesn't restrict it. But basically what happens, if I assign my Year 7 course to all of Year 7, then when they log in and they see their own home dashboard, it'll have a box for them that says like Year 7 course, and then here's your progress, and then there'll be a big button saying continue this course, basically. So it just makes it really easy for them to get to. But there's nothing stopping them from trying the Year 8 course. I don't see any specific reason why you'd want to stop them. But it means that if you assign the course, it'll make it, the course that you've selected much more prominent to them than the other ones, if that makes sense. Right. And there's other places as well where it uses that information. Anything else to mention? No, I think there's a few other bits and pieces, but I don't want to do everything on that. So how to assign a course. Oh yeah, if you go to a particular course, so if I go back to Tiffin School, go to my demo one, and then if you click this here, assigned classes, you can say which classes you want to assign it to, and then that'll be there. The prerequisite exam skills, I'm only going to briefly glaze over this, but it's basically any skills, exam skills the students expected to know at the start of the course. And the reason for this is that, let's just say, I don't know, it's Year 9 course, and there's some kind of module on trigonometry somewhere, and they want to practice some questions on trigonometry. And let's just say that it allows the system to pick the questions for them. Now, we all know that exam questions can mix skills. So it might be a particular question involves both trigonometry and Pythagoras. We'd have to use both within the same question. Now, the system sometimes wouldn't know whether it's appropriate to mix certain skills or not, because you don't want to mix trigonometry with skills that they haven't done yet. Imagine you got, I don't know, a question that has a right angle triangle, but also next to a non-right angled triangle and they have to use both skills. You wouldn't want that because they don't cover non-right angled trigonometry till year 10, say. But it is okay to mix trigonometry and Pythagoras because they did that in year 7. And that's what the prerequisite skills is about. It's saying this is a presumed knowledge that the student has at the start of the course. So if I click that, you might be wondering, well, obviously they'd be expected to know everything to the end of year 8. And indeed, you can import from a previous course. So I can say year 8, and then it will import all the skills from your year 8 course into your year 9 one. So this will just be the names of your courses that you set up at your school. I hope that makes sense. Right. So setting up classes, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this. You just can explore it. But if you go to your tab here and then go to classes teachers, I'm going to slightly redesign the layout here. If you get completely stuck, there is a video here, which is still pretty much up to date, actually, which explains pretty much everything that you can watch in your own time. Now, there's different options for creating classes, but the thing I recommend, particularly given the time of the year it is now, is when you get to September, do all your classes at once with a bulk import. So the way this works is if you go to Start the Wizard, and then basically what it does, it asks you to download a spreadsheet. Let's do that. I'll show you what it looks like. And then you put in the names of all your students. You're probably going to copy this from your tracking or whatever with their class name and year group and option their email. I do recommend trying to put their emails. And then what happens, I know there's a question there on the chat, I'll answer that in a second. You then upload that and basically it will then sort of process data and show you what all the data in your spreadsheet, and you'll have the option to say what you do with each student. So it might be that it's found an existing account because this doesn't like completely refresh all the accounts. It just refreshes the class groupings. So if there's an account either with that name or the email address, it says, oh, we think this account already exists. Do you mean this person? And then you can select yes, use this person from the drop down, or you can say actually this is a new person, just happen to have the same name. And obviously that's the case. I think we got like 3 Rahul Patels at my school, which causes some confusion. So that's the way I would recommend doing it. It will also, if you've got students who've left the school and therefore are not in your spreadsheet in a particular class, it'll then give you the option to archive those students. And archiving just basically means that the students still get to use their account if they wish. It's just they're kind of like, you don't see them. So you won't see them in the search bar, and they sort of, you won't actually see the account anywhere, but they can sort of still use it. It's kind of like, as not like a dormant account because they can still use it. You can delete it as well. And in fact, if you have like any unactivated student accounts and it's not in your list within your Excel imported document, then it'll give you the option to purge, delete those accounts as well. So let's not do that for the moment. You can now also create classes manually. And by the way, there's some text here. Everyone always asks, oh, can I put a student in multiple classes, have like an intervention class and keep them in their old class? Yes, you definitely can, and explains it there and in the video as well, but I'm not going to go through that now. So if I have a new class, say MedTech Club, and then year group, and then assigned teachers, just me. You can select a course as well, and then it'll do submit. So it's created the class and then explains the options. Now, I'm not going to go through the options except to say you can have like minimal interactions. So you can just give them a link and they get to do all the registration stuff themselves, and they will then be in your class. Yeah. Obviously, there's nothing stopping your classes, your people in your class using silly names or whatever. So you may want to have a bit more control, and you can put in their names, but without email addresses, or you can put in all the details, and then their account is basically done. They'll receive an email saying, click here to finish off your registration. They get to put their own password in, or they can link to a school like Google or Microsoft or Firefly even account. So then they don't have to use some other password. They can just basically log in with Google to get into the site. If you lose the link, it's just there, the registration URL. You've also got that link to use the class demo account. I was mentioning that earlier. If you want to add students, you just click so here and you can input them. If I just show you an existing class on the left, the gray ones, by the way, are your classes, the ones that are assigned to you. So if I click one, then you can see a lot of these students have Google enabled accounts when they've last logged in. If I click a student, I can move their class, I can edit their details, change their password, archive their account, etc. You can also find a student if you just type their name in the search bar there, and then when you type them, it will show you the matching students. You click them, and then if I want to say move their class, I just type them in the search bar. There will be a button there for move class, and it will just do it all in one go. It's like super quick, really easy. When the students move to a different class, will all their old assignment data be visible when you view assignments to the new class? That's a good question. In fact, let me quickly answer that now. If you go to view assigned work, and then click this particular one, I have no idea who this is for. Oh, this is my year 9s. This looks like a topic test because it's out of date. But if I select, these are just all the tasks I've set. If you select a particular class, like year 9, oh, come on. I think I've set a lot of tasks, so it's going to be quite big. Well, oh, there we go. That's not that much data. I don't know why that took so long. But these are all the tasks I've set across the year. Now, if you click off this checkbox, show whole class homeworks, basically you won't, if you move someone's class, you won't see those homeworks unless you uncheck that show whole class homeworks. Because if I uncheck it, it will then show any assignment set to anyone in that class, even if it was within a previous class grouping. Does that make sense? Whereas if I click the show whole class homework, I think the threshold is if it's been set to at least 75% of the class, then it will count as a whole class homework. And then it will only show you those ones. And that's on by default, by the way. So you won't see all the tasks that were set in their previous class, but you can if you want. Right, that's that. What do I need to show you next? Past papers worksheets. If you go to resources and then past papers worksheets. So a bunch of exam boards. So the tabs on the left, you've got past papers here. This is stuff that your school's directory. So you've got like, it automatically creates these folders. Shared is for like, all students can access that. Like stuff you want to share with them, worksheets. Restricted, like we've put in our landmarks and our core assessments. So you can see, look, spring 1 landmark, year 8 end of year paper. So I can click that and then it will load it. And you see that particular worksheet, just as we saw the worksheets interface earlier. And then you can do the usual things. You can set to students, and we saw this dialogue earlier. You can export it to Word. And if you want to edit it, you can like click edit mode. And then and I'm going to change, because this is a bit clunky, it's sort of how you select between those, and some people don't realize that you can do that. So then you can like modify the questions by clicking the crosses. You can drag stuff around. You can click a question to replace it. So you can then sort of filter by topic and choose a new question, etc. So if I do that with past paper, if I just exit this and go back to past papers, if you say have like an AQA paper, I don't know, let's go for foundation legacy and select a paper. Let's just say you want to set that paper as a homework. So in fact, for year 11s, I would set as a homework a whole past paper week. I would remove a few questions because otherwise it's a bit long as a homework. And then you can edit it, get rid of a bunch of questions. And then you need to save it as your own copy. The save button would usually be grayed out for you because you're not an admin, because you can't overwrite exam board papers. You have to save your own copy because you've made your own version of it. And then once you've done that, you can then set it to your students, if that makes sense. If you want to build a new worksheet, if I just exit that, just go to the top, new worksheet, and then it's a blank one. And you can start from scratch and click the plus to add questions and click to choose questions. It's very intuitive. So I don't really need to explain much stuff here. Right, that's that. What else? So mention past papers, set an abridged past paper, export to Word. No, I haven't shown you that actually. Yeah, if you export to Word, I don't think I showed you that. You've got a few options. There will be an increasing number of options for this. If I generate that, I then get a Word document. That was super quick actually. Well done, site. And hopefully we can see all the questions now. There we go. Look, so generated a paper. All the questions here. And then you've got mark scheme. There we go. And for some of the questions, you actually got. Now, I think for the AQA ones, we haven't got the original mark schemes for many of them. But I certainly know for the edXL ones, we've got all of these sort of like screen grabs of the mark scheme for them. In fact, you can see actually for most questions you do. I think there's just a few missing at the start. So that's quite cool. Yeah, so you can very quickly make this. It's a bit like examples, but except across multiple exam boards and sort of user contributed content as well in terms of exam questions. By the way, if you want to do make your own exam questions, you go to more, and then you can see build questions, and then you can build your own questions and try that out. That's quite advanced. Right. Yeah. Okay. Key skills next. So we saw the key skills within like the course system, but it might be that you want to select a particular, I don't know, mixture of key skills outside that's not in, I don't know, a particular course. So you can access them individually by going to resources, key skills. So if I go to that, so this is the latest one. You got some latest ones here just to see what's new. This is really cool. So Gator, as I said, Gator made these. This is using Desmos. Most of these key skills. So, oh, look at that, so cool. For just getting all the trigonometry to sort of like do this, just amazed. So this is measuring, and we've got 6.2. Oh, so it's in millimeters, 62. Yes, I got it right. There we go. Oh, look, just like this is so good. He just made that yesterday. It's really nice. I think I requested it a few days ago, and then like he'd done it the day after. That's just amazeballs, right? So you've got all the skills on the left in the usual sort of structure. If students have a particular code, if I was to type K640 into there, it would go straight to that skill. You can even filter by course. So I can go to the ones in year 7, for example. So if I do that, and then you can see all of these. So the students can watch the video on it, and it'll load that up. You saw those earlier. Sign, where we've got a mixture of positive. And then also, if you select a mixture of skills, and by the way, you couldn't used to, but you can now, you can select a mixture across different topics. So you can see on the right is your selection. If I did like transformations of curves, and I selected one of these, and if you can select a preview. So let's see a preview of those, which is in a new tab. You can see those questions here with the explanation, etc. There's all sorts of cool ones. So what were the cool ones I want to show you actually? One really nice one is this is the most amazing. I discovered this the other day because I was selling it to my own students, and I was just staggered about how I even managed to do this. Like reverse engineered, like how to do algebraic fraction questions. So if I go to it'll be under algebra, and then it'll be under formula and simplifying expressions, and then let's get rid of these jobbies. And then it was Formix. What was it called? It was no, it was actually under solving equations, I think, and it was solve. There we go, with fractions leading to quadratic equation. So look at this. So this is a randomly generated question, and I think it gives you rational solutions. So look at that, all the explanation. That's all dynamically generated. That is just staggering. So you can get infinite like algebraic fractions questions using this key skill system. So then the setting options, by the way, is if you got your key skills you selected. Let's say I've selected these two. And if I do set to students, you have an option of flexible questions or fixed questions. Now, if I do fixed questions, do you remember earlier when I made that worksheet of like different negative number skills? That is basically that. It's just another way of getting there. Now, it might be that you don't want to give fixed questions to your students. You actually want to say, well, I want to keep giving my students questions until they meet some accuracy criteria. So if I do that, flexible questions, rather than a fixed number of questions, achieve a certain accuracy, and they're going to get 4 out of the last 5 right. Now, if you've chosen multiple skills, and I have, there were 2 skills I selected there, then what will happen is they will keep getting questions on each skill until they've met the accuracy criteria for that particular skill. Now, you might wonder, okay, what if there's a mixture of skills? And that's what the interleave skills thing does. So if it's yes, it will rotate between those 2 skills until, let's say, on skill 1, they've now matched the accuracy criteria. They've got the last 4 out of 5 right on that particular skill. Then it will just go to the other one. But if you don't interleave, then basically they'll keep on getting questions on that same skill until they've got 4 out of 5 right on the last 5 questions. Then it will move on to the next block of questions for that other skill. So it won't interleave them. I hope that makes sense. So you can see lots of different options, or you can play the live game with those particular selection of key skills. So there's often lots of different ways of setting a particular task. Now, if you want to see all the options for setting a task rather than from these individual facilities, you go to JFrost, your name, set work, and that shows you all the different options. So that just goes back to this key skills thing we saw before. Or you've got all these options of exam questions. So it can be you choose the questions, and that goes to this, we saw this earlier, just picking the questions yourself. But it's just a nice hub to know where to find these questions. I'll go back. It's a nice way to sort of just see all the different options for setting work. Past papers, we saw that earlier. Questions by topic. Now, I don't actually recommend this option. Certainly the kind of tasks on the key skills where different students get different questions, there's some perks with that, because it can be that if some students need more questions before they start getting it right, then the system has that kind of maneuverability. But with exam questions, the problem is, because they're so broad, you can get some students getting some pretty wacky exam questions, like really obscure ones that, I don't know, only 1 in 100 people nationally got right. So you just be very careful using this. So actually, I think personally, with exam questions, it's better that all students in your class have the same questions. Then there's also topic tests. So as I mentioned, there's 1 or 2 of these for each of the exam skills, and we've selected them ourselves at DFM, like 8 questions for each topic, each skill. And if they get at least 6 out of them right, they get their topic medal. And the rule is basically they're allowed 2 attempts per 24 hours for topic tests, and they're told that when they start that, they'll say, this is attempt 1 of 2, you're allowed 2 attempts in 24 hours. It's just to stop students, then if they get it wrong, immediately just keep on doing it until they get it right. They have to sort of actually go away, learn to see what they've got wrong, and then have another go at it, because the questions are fixed. Right. That's that. You've seen those different options. We're near the end, actually. I might finish a bit earlier than usual. I want to also show the progress interface, and then we'll go onto the whiteboard and the live game to finish. So if you go to JFrost, or your name, and go to View Assigned Work. Now, we touched upon this earlier because I was answering someone's earlier question. But you'll just see all the tasks that you've set. So if I go to this, we saw that earlier, didn't we? So you can click on individual... as I said, these names are scrambled, but it usually have the names of my Year 9 students. If I click a particular answer, I can see what the question is and what the correct answer was. Oh, you can see there's probably some kind of rounding error there. And I can feed back to the student. And by the way, that's what that icon is here. That allows you, for a student, it allows to see any feedback they've received from the teacher via this system here. And as a teacher, the reason it says 22 there is because I can see all the feedback that students left for me. So when they do a question, they have an option to fill in a little box to feed back to their teacher. And you can choose to ignore that as a teacher if you wish, or you can actually review what they've written and discuss with them in class, or even feedback via the system. A useful, relatively new feature is actually you can see whether the students have seen the question. So the student got to question 3, but then didn't do it. And that's useful to distinguish between cases where students have started the task but have done no questions because they've seen question 1, or they haven't even started. And that's very useful when in class you've set a live task that they're doing, and you want to see live whether they've started the task or not, and you can see it because there'll be a seen thing in the first question. If you want to get the most recent live data, you just click that refresh button here, and that gets the latest data. And that's just useful if your class are currently doing the task in your lesson. And it's great because rather than wandering around to see what they're doing, I can just sort of be at my computer and see exactly what they're doing and what questions they're getting wrong. And just at a glance, I can see, well, not so much for this particular task, but if you have like a column of red, you can see that students are not doing very well at that particular question. This is a really super powerful facility by topic. Now, this particular thing, because this was a topic test, it was on a particular skill. It was like determine the lengths of sides in a right angle triangle using trigonometry. Not much variation there. Now, there happened to be 2 different skills that involved, because there was also, I don't know what those angle ones, that's a bit strange. But if I go to, like I say, a past paper, oh yeah, there we go. This is to some year 11s. I set them a further maths past paper. Now, if I go to by topic, these were all the topics involved in that particular homework I set them. So you can see like multiply matrices, they were all right. Apparently there was some multiple questions on circles. But I can see that they were weakest on the shapes of different types of curves. So that's a very powerful facility there. The worst questions, I'll be improving this facility soon. At the moment, you can just download a Word doc and you'll have all the questions in order of worst to best, and it will say what percentage of the students got it right. I will be improving that, so you will be able to see that data online as well via a nice little interface. And also it will show you like what, like for each question, like what the different answers students put and like how many students put that right or wrong answer. So you can see the kind of common misconceptions. So that's something that's coming soon that I will be developing. Can you see data per individual student? The answer is yes. So if I go back, let's say I go to year 9. Come on. Oh, yeah, it's a year 9 class where the data loads slowly for some reason. Okay, here we go. But if I go to, a particular student and I go to just click one, I can see this student's attempts. They got all of this right. You can override their mark, etc. And if I go to back, and it goes back to this class view. If you want to see all their entire activity, then what you can do is you can go to activity log, and then what you do is you select individual from here. So I was selecting classes, but you can select individual. Now I'm not going to do it because I'd have to type in their name, and I'm just a bit worried about doing that. But you can just search a student in that box, and then will appear. You select them, and then basically, rather than all the activity from all my students, it will only have the activity for that one student. You can see everything they've done, both their independent practices and the particular assignments that you've set to them as a student, as a teacher. Sorry, does that make sense? So just have an explore with that, and hopefully it'll make sense. You can export most of these things to Word as well. So you click that, and you'll be able to download their answers. What other stuff do we have here? So if we go to homeworks assessments, that's how you view what you've set them. Activity log is all the activity for class or a particular student, filtered by class or by a particular student. And that's both independent practices and homework they've done. Progress by topic allows you to see, if I select a strand, I can see all the questions they've done or exam questions they've done on algebra stuff. And you can see it's like, there we go, factorized quadratics. And if I clicked one of these, it would show me all the questions that students have done on that particular topic. That's quite cool. You've also got the key skills as well. So, what questions they've done. You can even do like videos they've watched as well. So if you click that, you can see they haven't watched many videos, it seems, that particular class. If we go to leaderboards, you can see different leaderboards like in the school, like in particular year groups in a particular class, etc. You can even generate your own custom leaderboard web page, and you can export it to Excel as well. Videos watch, I showed you that. Report generator allows you to generate like student data summary bits for parents evening, all sorts of different reports. And I will be expanding the array of these, but all sorts of different reports you can generate. Ignore that, I'm decommissioning that one. Times tables is times table. Like if they've practiced times tables, it seems a lot of them have tried it at some point. What their times were for each of the times tables. You've got the division, the times ones, and also division tables. So like 96 divided by 12, that kind of stuff. So how fast they were at that. And as I say, I will be expanding the sort of numeracy facilities available on the site. All feedback, that's the same as clicking this thing here, and you can see all the written feedback students have left you. Summaries is just like a data summary for the currently selected class or individual. Like how much time spent on questions, number of questions answered within a particular date range. And you can export that again. And then live games, that's, well, we'll get to that. Right, so that's all the boring stuff. So the last two things to finish with is, and then we'll get on to questions, is the virtual whiteboard and the live game. And I say exciting because you get to take part in this. If I go to resources and I go to virtual whiteboard, Now, you have two options. You probably want classroom mode, and that's basically a kind of collaborative whiteboard that you use with a whole class of students. So you could select one of your classes you've set up. And the advantage of that is that all in the sort of like tab where you get to view all the students, it will pre-populate that with everyone in the class, even if they haven't connected to your whiteboard. They'll initially be grayed out, and as they connect to the whiteboard, then they'll be ungrayed out, and it's easy to see therefore who's engaged in the particular task, because you'll see which students haven't connected to your whiteboard yet. But let's not do that, because otherwise you won't be able to connect to me because you're not in my class. One-to-one mode is just useful if you're doing it with one student, also useful for private tuition as well, actually, that I've used in the past. That's just basically, if it's one-to-one mode, it's just a basically one shared whiteboard. And that kind of, the tab for seeing everything the students are doing, that's not applicable. So let's do classroom mode. Now I'm going to give you this link. So I'll copy this into the chat. Now the chat, to get to the chat, in case you haven't seen it, it's the quote looking icon, the bottom right of your screen. I can see some people in already. So what I'm going to do, 3 people. Kevin's there, demo person. Oh, by the way, if your name's demo person, that's because you've tried to practice some questions earlier and it created you a temporary account so you could do some practice. So we've got a bunch of people here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw a cat, and then you can sort of finish my cat. So if I look at this, you can see the cat is there, and then you can draw some eyes in or whatever, whiskers. So he's got the best cat. Look at these cats. He's got the best cat. I like Kevin's cat. Oh, Emma Carson, that is quite some cat. Kirsty's has some kind of like artistic flair to it. I do like it. It's a bit different. Anyway, Bethan's actually added an extra person next to the cat. They're thinking outside the box there. You probably want to do something more serious with this. So what you can do is, let's nuke all your cats. So I'm going to do rubber clear all for all, and that deletes everything for everyone. So goodbye cats for everyone. Now you can use this tool to import your own custom image, or this is the most powerful thing. This allows you to import any question from the exam skills database. So if I click that, or you can actually import from a worksheet as well. So I'm not going to load a worksheet, but you could load a past paper, and then you can quickly like cycle through the questions in a particular past paper. But we're going to filter by topic, and let's just go for, I don't know, PyFab question or something. And in fact, let's go for transformations, because then you actually get to sort of draw the shape. So reflect enlarge a shape. There we go. And let's filter to, I don't know, Excel, because there's more questions than other examples. Okay, there we go. So you should be able to see this exam question, and then you can draw your shape on. And as a teacher, I can then view everything you're doing. If I click on a particular person, so if I'm going to see that someone's starting, this anonymous user here, they started wrong and they deleted it, it seems. You can click on someone's thing. Oh, look, they've even got the guidelines there. And you can actually, I can interact with that individual's whiteboard. So if I write hello here, that only appears on their whiteboard and no one else's. Oh, look, hello, hi. Thanks, demo person. Could you do that again, as I can only see my board? Do what again exactly? Oh, you can only see your board because you're a student, like attached to my teacher whiteboard, if that makes sense. You don't have teacher control because I started the whiteboard, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But you can try this later, and it's something that as I sort of hire like full-time programmers, we can do a lot more, sort of invest a lot more time into this. Getting to adding the question. Oh, sorry. Okay. So to add the question, it's this. If you're on this tab here, you go to return to master whiteboard, or just click this icon here. And then you click this icon here. Now, when you load up the whiteboard, it explains what the icons are, and I'm probably gonna add some tooltips. So when you hover your mouse over, it'll say what it is, etc. But it's that icon there, and then you just filter by question. Does that make sense? Right, so that's the whiteboard. And the last thing, and this is so exciting, and I love this, is the DFM Live mode. So if you go to resources, and then go to, yeah, by the way, this is my year 7 class from a few years ago, and that is from my classroom. It's got a lovely view over Kingston Grammar School's chapel, actually, which is right next to us. So we go to resources and then the live classroom game. So it gives you a few options. I want to do it by past paper just because or worksheet because I've selected some questions for you. Can you set multiple questions in advance on the whiteboard? Yes. So if you've made a worksheet of like a selection of questions, you can then, when you click that kind of like library icon, there was a button there for load worksheet, and you can load either past paper or that collection of questions, and then it allows you to cycle between those. You can't load, I don't know what it means to load multiple questions at once, but if you've opened a worksheet, you can then quickly flick through those particular questions in your worksheet. Sometimes students go and lose a question. Yeah, I know about that problem. So it's not really my fault, but I'll probably have a button to sort of like reset orientation. So it kind of goes back to the sort of starting zoom or whatever, and pan. So I have something like that. I do know about that problem. Right, so let's go to by worksheet and select the pre-existing questions myself, but you can get the system to choose the questions for you. So you can either have it automated or not. So if I go to my home folder, demos, I did this for the Maths Association, and this one. So let's go to, you click live game, very simple. And we've got some options here. You can select a particular class. And again, like all the names will appear and they'll be grayed out. And as they connect to you, you'll then see them ungrayed out. So you know who hasn't joined yet. But I'm just going to do guess allowed. I generally don't allow nicknames in my class because you always get somebody who's being a bit silly. Do I want to give you more points to get it faster? Well, for now, let's do that. But if you want to make it a bit lower stakes, then you can do no more points for fast answers. They just get points. If the same number of points, they get it right. And actually, this option here, I added for lockdown, because usually the assumption is that the question only appears on the teacher's screen, and on your screen as a participant, it only has the answer input. Now, during lockdown, that wasn't obviously necessarily applicable. So I changed it so that you had the option to put the question and the answer input on the student screen. So they weren't relied on seeing the teacher's screen. So I'm going to select that in case you can't see my screen and don't have to like switch between the two. Start game. Right, so I'll put the link in here. It's very easy. It's just dfm.live. I paid hundreds for that domain name because it's only 3 letters, DFM. I did actually contact the person who owns dfm.com. They asked for $100,000, so I said no. And the passcode is 838747. There you go. So let's see who's going to come in. Got Jacob, Stacey. I'll give you another 30 seconds or so to get in. It's not the end of the world if you have to watch. I'm probably actually going to spend some money paying a composer to write some tunes for this. This is royalty-free music I've got, just in case you're wondering where the DFM live music comes from. Right, I think that's enough time. I'm going to start. Sorry if you didn't manage to get in. You can actually join mid-game, by the way. So the passcode's there if you are late. Let's start. Right, let's see how quick you are. Kirsty's in first. I've done this with 500 people simultaneously before, and it works seamlessly. I was quite impressed with it. Oh, one person left. Oh, there we go. We're all in. Did you all get it right? Oh, no, there were some wrong answers. So it's kind of, it only shows the people who got it right. So the names that appeared were people who got it right. But you can select this and see who got it wrong. So apologies, Sue. But those are the right answers. So if we go to next, We've got the second question. I think this is algebraic input this time, so you get to see the algebraic keyboard. You don't have to use the keyboard, the algebraic keyboard. You can just type it in your normal keyboard. Kirsty in first. She's very quick. How do you set up questions for this or the pre-existing quizzes? So I selected, there was 3 options when I went to DFM Live. So you can either choose the questions yourself, or you can just choose a few key skills and it does the questions for you, or you can select some exam skills and it chooses exam questions for you. Now I'd already saved this collection of questions, so I just had to go to my home folder, find that worksheet of questions I'd already made, and just click the live button, and then it started. But just explore, you'll hopefully be able to find it. And then one final question, you get to draw something for this. So elevation question. It'll be easier if you're doing it on a mouse rather than, it does work on touch devices, but it's always going to be easier with a mouse. Well done, Jacob, for being in first. Vicky second. Kevin next. Then Kirsty. Right, apologies you haven't drawn it. I'm going to stop waiting. And that was the answer. And you can see, can you set up a timer for each question I'm being asked? At the moment, no. You basically either wait until all the answers are in, or you just click the stop waiting. But there'll be gradually more options over time for the DFM Live game. So it's kind of constantly developing. And so these are all the right answers. And then let's see what people have drawn for the wrong answers. So now that one's too tall, I think. So it's 3 squares tall. No, sorry, it's supposed to be 4 squares, and yours is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that was a mistake. So it's quite cool that you can sort of review the wrong answers as well. So we go to finish. I think that's the last question anyway. And there we go. These are standings. So well done, Kirsty, for going first. And then you can see the full result. So this is a table of all the answers here. And it's grey if they didn't answer. And it actually saves those now, so you can actually get back to those if you want to view the results later. If the live doesn't work and it has that message that's saying it's blocked, basically you need to ask, I think it actually says the message there, but they're blocking socket connections to DFM. So I think you have to basically put .rossmaths.com in their whitelist to allow socket connections. So because it specifically uses something called socket connection so that you're directly connected to the servers, like a constant stream. So that's, you can always email me about that if you want to know what to say to them. But anyway, that's the end of the demo. I hope you learned some new stuff. I will be around for about 5 minutes to answer any questions, but otherwise, thank you so much for coming. And I do hope that you use some of this functionality for next school year. And as I say, we're a charity. It is free. Everything's free on the site, and soon ad-free as well, and it will always remain free. Cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah, Madga, I'm gradually adding more exam boards. We've only just started the courses system. So we've set up the Edexcel one first, but I've started on the AQA stuff and then OCR. So it is coming, don't worry. We don't have resources for core maths, I'm afraid, at the moment, but it's just a case of time. As I have more staff, we'll be able to do this kind of thing. PowerPoint's particular topics on core maths? No, at the moment, no, I'm afraid. There's just so many different courses out there. But the recording will be available. Yeah, I will. In fact, I think because this is probably the best I've done the event so far in terms of stuff not going wrong. So I will probably try and use this recording that I put on and make available on YouTube. When you're saying, are there PowerPoints for particular topics? What do you mean by that? Like, is there a PowerPoint for, say, Pythagoras? Is that what you mean? Oh, I see. Yeah, there is. Yeah, if you just go to resources and then go to all resources, you can go, for example, to say, I don't know, shape space, and then go to, I don't know, area and perimeter, and then it has all the different worksheets and PowerPoints that you can download. Do you have specific resources for Edexcel IGCSE? Not specifically, but we do have all the exam questions. So if you go to resources, exam questions by topic, you can see if I put in Edexcel IGCSE, it hopefully should map shows an exam code. You can see there's 2,906 IGCSE questions for Edexcel IGCSE. But no specific slides for, like, for example, I haven't done any slides on, what is it, the intersecting chord theorem, for example, is an IGCSE specific thing. Do we use textbooks at Tiffin? We do have digital textbooks, actually, and some teachers use them more than others. I don't use textbooks at all, but other teachers do. Good question, Emma. How can you see if what course students have completed? I'm yet to do that, just because of the functionality is very new for the courses system. I only released it a few weeks ago, and that is like the next thing on my list, basically. We have full Google. Any tips for when PowerPoints don't function well? Yeah, it doesn't import into Google Slides very well. The problem is particularly the sort of maths type just doesn't render very well outside of Office, and I don't really have any advice for that other than view it in Office, basically. I'm going to stop the recording, but I will continue to answer questions that you have.